Hey, welcome. BlackTribe, Mandate 456. Gary and Lisa Black coming at you from 719 Lending in Colorado Springs. Shout out to them. Hi, baby. How are you?
Good, baby. How you doing?
I'm doing so good.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is our second take because I didn't hit record for the voice. So here we go.
It's the little things.
It's the little things in life. Hey, I'm excited about today. We're talking the different types of intimacies. We're talking how you actually can compartmentalize in your marriage, right? So if you're watching us on video, we're both wearing powder blue. We didn't mean to do this today, but here we are. Patreon.com/Gary and Lisa Black. Or you're listening to the podcast on Apple or iTunes or any of the platforms, Spotify. So GaryandLisaBlack.com for any of our stuff. I looked today on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
373 videos.
They're all you taking the dog for a
walk.
walk.
I've never promoted our YouTube channel, so we have like a couple 170 some subscribers. I don't know how.
That's so cute. I didn't know we had one.
Yeah. Yes, we do, and it's beautiful. So you can find all of our stuff there.
Wow.
And GaryandLisaBlack.com is the best place, though. It all gets downloaded. What are we doing today, baby?
Well, we're going to go into some different levels of intimacy in marriage.
Okay.
Because we do talk about sexual intimacy a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very important, but
it is very important.
We haven't really covered spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy,
okay,
and sexual intimacy. So,
and you always got to have the and. Sexual.
Yeah, and I think obviously when we think of that word intimacy, we go, most of us we go right to sex, and we've had lots of conversations about that. But I was just thinking of, okay, before we get to that, because that's good stuff, that's good meaty stuff, and it's very important, but you and I rarely deal with marriages that are thriving and have the answers,
really?
Right?
Yeah.
And we were not thriving, and we didn't have the answers for years, and we had a really hard time getting any kind of solid guidance that would give us tools that would actually say, hey, when you guys get home, I want you to practice this, or it was just that's what, and we are not anti-therapy. Trust me. I've spent $100,000 on therapy for people that needed it in our family, and whether it helped them or not, I don't know. Right. I mean, it's still out there, but I think it's a good thing. I think anytime you can see that you are stuck or you don't know how to get past something, and someone older or wiser with more education or more life experience can say, hey, when you get up tomorrow, I want you to try this. And I think a lot of us want some practical things of how,
absolutely,
when you're drowning.
And I want to add this, that don't wait until you're in crisis.
Yeah.
Right? You have access to us for coaching.
Yes.
You have access to, obviously, to hundreds of thousands of therapists, right? And the best thing to do is get the tools when things are good, so that when you do go in the ditch, you have those tools to come out of the ditch. And that's what we hope we're trying to give you here on this podcast, are those practical tools by things we've learned and loved and lived through. I had a guy comment the other day on the podcast. He goes, I just love the way you and Lisa interact, and I love the smoothness of your voices.
Oh, we do have great voices.
We have great smooth voices.
Okay, it's good to know.
Little BB King.
I was actually very attracted to your voice when I first met you. There was a couple guys I dated in between husbands, and if they'd call me and their voice was not like
smooth.
Yeah, I didn't really want to see them. I didn't want to have coffee with them or anything. And when you called me and your voice was all like gravelly. And
so you don't love it anymore?
No, I love your. I find it very. Probably if you died tomorrow, I would probably have just a loop of messages from you that I would listen to.
Hey, by the way, guys, we went to the Eagles concert the other night. Oh my gosh! We celebrated our anniversary because we're doing the marriage intensive during our 23rd anniversary. And talk about smooth. 76-year-old boys up there.
So impressive.
Killing it, man. If you get to see the Eagles last tour, go to it.
And I did not realize, if I had been playing trivia and someone said, when did the Eagles launch? I would have said, 68, 69. It was my year I was born, 1970. And I thought, this is why I feel so connected to this band, because I literally grew up with them.
Yeah. Don Henley said, we've been practicing for 53 years.
And
I
hope
this is okay.
I've been practicing for 53 years too.
And honestly, Joe Walsh stole the show. I can't believe it.
It just goes to show, when you're created to do something and you do that thing, you just get better and better.
Yeah.
And even if you have to limp to get to the microphone once you get there.
Well, Sheryl Crow opened and she
oh my gosh, she's 60 years old and she's just gorgeous from head to toe. It was very impressive. Anyway.
All right, so intimacy and compartmentalizing.
We're going to start with
marriage.
the compartmentalizing.
Okay,
I think we'll probably go to a part 2. So if you're listening to this, hold on for the part 2 because we'll go into more depth there. But I've always been fascinated by the male ability to compartmentalize.
Okay.
And I have separated it in my own mind in evolution of survival for men. And I don't know if that's still happening quite like it was on the earth. I think probably video games and pornography is a form of unhealthy compartmentalizing. I don't know if all video games are, but it's the shutting off of a certain part of your life that may be too complicated or you don't know what to do or you feel stuck, and then just staying in another part of life. And we've talked about how, if a man's going to war, and I know women go to war too, but we're going to go like World War I, World War II, because this is really when things change among the genders. Like it was a real shift. So you think, you got 19-year-old boys, maybe 25-year-old boys, maybe they have a wife and children back at home. They definitely had a job, they had a home, they had a farm, they had something. When they're on the front lines and they got their buddies next to them, they're not thinking about their farm or their wife or their children. They are fully engaged in battle. And I think, men are hunters. Typically, I know there's going to be a woman somewhere. I'm a hunter. I know. I know these are generalizations.
Well, there's going to be men that say, "Well, I think about my wife the whole time I'm at war." You've never been to war, so you don't. You don't know. So
going to Denver in traffic is not war.
Yes,
it might feel like it, but it's not. It's a small one. But and I don't know that it's a bad or a good thing the way God designed us. I think it was a survival thing that men had to do that and compartmentalize. It's very difficult for women, which is why I tell, most of the young women that I know they want their careers, and I know that they don't want to put that on hold while they have babies or raise babies or whatever. But it's not super practical. I've never been at work and not been thinking about my kids. And I've never been home with my kids and not been thinking about work. It is impossible for me to go into my office and shut off the fact that my kids were with a nanny or a babysitter or at school, or I was always connected to them. I was always thinking of what I was going to make for dinner. I just couldn't ever shift that.
Yeah, and let's admit it, you're more like a 1950s housewife.
I would rock the 1950s.
Yeah, you would have killed it.
No, but I love working. I absolutely
I know that about you.
Loved it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was easier to go to work than stay home. Because I would get job reviews and people would tell me, wow, you're doing so great,
Well, that's
Lisa.
why men go.
Yeah. I'd be home and I would kill myself to make and nobody noticed, nobody cared, it just didn't matter. It's
right.
The art of homemaking is not valued by very many people.
So when we didn't celebrate your meals, you would get come on, guys.
I just wanted a thank you instead of a complaint.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm following you. So men go to war.
Yeah.
Men, whatever, the professional athletes, whatever you're golfing, you're compartmentalizing because you're just focused on what you're doing right now.
Which is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. Women, it's really hard for them, especially maternal good women.
Hard to.
Because they can't separate themselves from their children. And we know even our daughter-in-laws are having to put their children in daycare.
Yeah, it's a long day for our daughter-in-laws.
Yeah, which we hate, but at the same time, they don't have a choice.
Right.
Because they all have to work. Obviously, times have changed drastically. So it's really hard, though, for a woman to separate any of that.
It is.
It's easier for men.
It is, and I think that's why you could be in the car with your wife driving to an apple orchard with the children on a beautiful fall day, and he says something to her or goes to grab her hand or something, and she pulls away. She's mad about something that happened last Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it's not been resolved. So she's got to freeze you out because she's got to punish you to make you see how serious this was. Now, this also, to me, is the difference between girlhood and womanhood.
Okay.
Because when I was a little girl in my 20s and probably in my 30s, I used pouting. I used coldness. I had to punish my man for how he failed me. And if I gave him a smile or a touch, he would get the message, oh, it's over. We don't have to ever talk about that again. I've forgiven you. We've moved on. Because he has.
Right.
He's good. He's not thinking about it.
Right.
He's like, we're going to the pumpkin patch with the cute little kids. You
Right.
know, maybe I can get a beer later. I don't know. This could be a good day. Could be a good day. But a woman can't have a good day on a perfect day if her emotions are tied up and she has not put it in a compartment. So this is my challenge.
Okay.
I want to give like a 5-day challenge, 2-week challenge, especially to women, to try compartmentalizing.
All right, try
it.
Okay, here's the 5-day challenge, and we'd love to hear from some of you. And I want to, since I'm thinking about this, we want to start interviewing some married couples.
Yes,
young, old,
regular
middle, people who are having a really hard time, people who are doing great. We want to start getting you on the podcast and talking through stuff.
Yeah, if you got a story you want to talk to us about, message us.
So please message us and let's set that up. Okay, so how would a woman?
So let's just start with.
So wait, so stop.
Okay,
So Genghis Khan.
Yes.
So what he would do, and they say 1% of the whole world is impregnated by him or has his seed in.
We have his DNA.
Yeah, and we were in Kazakhstan, and everybody looked. I mean, they're gorgeous people, but they say like 80% of those people.
They're all related.
Yeah,
somehow.
they're all related to.
Because he raped so many women.
Yeah, he raped tens of thousands of women.
What a peach!
So he would line up the women and children.
Put them in the middle.
And no, he put them behind they put his men on the front line of war, and then he'd put the women and children behind them about a half a mile. And he would tell his men, if they break through this line, they're going to rape your wives and they're going to kill your children. So you better fight like a warrior.
Yeah.
So those men had to compartmentalize and say, I'm taking these dudes out or they're dead. So we fight for you. We fight and we think about that we are actually fighting for something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely.
But we can compartmentalize that time and do it. A woman, we're saying it's tougher for them. So how would a woman learn how to compartmentalize?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that it can be incredibly dangerous to compartmentalize.
Okay.
I think it is one of those things that can be a curse or a blessing depending on how you use it. I think you can use it to stay in denial, to never deal with anything, to there are stories of women that say, this man came home every day at 5. We had 5 children together. He taught Sunday school. We went to Sunday school together. And I found out after 35 years of marriage, he was a serial killer.
Yeah, or a pedophile.
That is extreme compartmentalizing
of
to where people have separate lives. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a woman tapping into that masculine side of her brain and also rising up to a little bit more maturity. Instead of punishing your man, having a conversation with your man. So we've had lots of situations like this. And in the beginning of our marriage, I don't
remember. I've compartmentalized them. No, go ahead.
I think our marriage was always easy for you.
Okay, touche.
Worked out great for you. I know. When I hear some old men raving about their wives and how amazing they were, I think, yeah, that marriage was great for you. She had the sucking end of the deal.
I'll tell you the truth. You've never punished me with like withholding sex or something. You like sex too much, so you would never like, well, we're not having sex 'cause I'm mad at you.
Well, I do like sex, but I also found that is a way we were coming back together. So to me, I saw it as a tool of intimacy. And so I didn't want to miss that because my goal was for us to be.
No pun intended, but
I didn't, I wanted us to be close and I wanted us to be one and I wanted us to be together. So why would I push you away sexually? But most women I know use sex
to punish.
Okay. Like the lack of sex. I think the coldness, those type of things is when I'm asking you as women to rise above yourself, look at the whole of your marriage. And if I looked at the whole of our marriage, I would look at, spiritually, physically, financially, emotionally, and physically, like how we connect. There's areas we connect very strong on, and there's areas we avoid like crazy because we know it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. Neither one of us really wants to have it, and we don't have a solution.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go there.
Right. We don't have the tools to deal with it. Yes.
For some people, that is emotional intimacy. For some people, that is maybe financial. Like they've got everything's okay if they've got money. But if there's any kind of shift in that, she's freaking out about her security. He's freaking out about his manhood, his ability to. So we just don't talk about that subject.
That's true.
But it comes up all the time.
Yeah, that's good.
So if that's going on for 20 years, it's time to move into that compartment together.
Yes.
Right? But I'm talking about like a week. I'm talking about a marriage that is not connecting maybe on 3 of the 5 points. Okay, maybe you guys connect over the kids, And maybe you connect beautifully over finances. But that's rare. But the other 3 things you're not connecting on. And some injury has come in on that thing. There was, you walk in, your husband's on the phone talking to another woman on text or something, and you're mad about it. Or you see him, looking at pornography. Or in our situation, you're like, oh my God, what did you buy at Target? I'm like, things we needed, very defensively.
In your girl math?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we want to avoid
Amazon.
And we want to avoid that pain, right? So we step away. So I'm talking about shelving it for the greater good of the whole of the marriage. And I'm talking about difference between holding a grudge and punishing your spouse with no outcome. How much more successful would it be if you were to say, hey, this happened today, and we're going to table this because we are not going to be alone together to have this conversation with whatever emotions come up until Friday, but we have all this going on with our family all week. So are we going to be hateful toward each other? Are we going to make sarcastic comments to each other? Like our daughter said to us, they were just in town for our baby shower. Or her baby shower.
Right.
Not ours. No, we're done having babies.
We are not pregnant.
But we're having another granddaughter coming, and so we're celebrating with our daughter and son-in-law, and she said there was a traffic incident where you got pretty intense when we were all in the truck.
Backing out of the Oktoberfest.
I looked at our children who are adults now, and their faces were like, oh God, Dad's mad. And I was upset because I thought it was a bit much.
It was a bit much
for Oktoberfest to be that angry, but we moved on very quickly.
People were being complete idiots, by the way.
Everyone's an idiot who's in a car different than you.
Okay, good point. Yeah.
But it was interesting because our daughter's 30 now, and she said, Mom, I love watching your marriage with Dad now, because she said an incident like that when we were children would have lasted for 2 weeks. She said we would have felt the tension so thick. Because I was mad, you're mad, so we've got to just carry that.
Right.
And she's like, you guys were over it. You said what you needed to say. He said what he needed to say. 10 minutes later, everything was fine. We're eating wings.
Right.
And I thought that's the difference of an immature marriage versus a mature marriage. It isn't that things don't come up.
Right. Well, let's talk about another story. And I want to talk about the men's side of this too. Because,
yes, please.
Yeah. We're in Mexico. We're ministering. It's intense. I lose my shit for some reason at breakfast. I just get upset because I couldn't find. I'm terrible with directions, as you guys know if you listen, and I get upset, and so then I take it out on you. We got in a big fight, and we're at breakfast, and
I'm crying.
Yes,
I'm trying to figure out how to get out of Mexico without you.
Yes, and it was ridiculous, and so I went and got help for it when we got home. I think we've talked about that on the podcast.
We haven't talked about it,
but we were meeting Noah and his girlfriend.
After 5 days of intense ministry and heat and all the things, we were meeting our son
in Puerto
and his
Vallarta.
fiance
we're going to go over there for 3 days and hang out with them. So we just decided, let's table this. Let's compartmentalize
And I cried from the hotel on the bus to the airport.
To Guadalajara,
And then the second we got them, I fixed up my makeup. I put eye drops in, and I was like, hi.
Yes.
And it fake, I don't know, but why drag them into something that we couldn't do anything about at the moment?
Especially on a vacation.
On a vacation. And when I look back at my youth, I think of the beautiful fall days that I pouted my way through because of my immaturity.
That's really good.
That I missed.
Yeah. And I would say that's true for men too. We want you to pay for it somehow, or we just don't want to talk about it because we know it's just going to turn into irrationality, right? It's going to get crazy. So we try to avoid it at all costs. So it's really important, guys, if you're listening to this, that when you do make that decision to say, okay, wait, let's put this aside for a few days. We're going to come back together.
There's the key.
You have to come back together on it. Now, the thing I love about this, and a big-time pastor taught me this from our city here, was that if people were calling him losing their mind,
the clock's not on.
What?
I thought the clock was keeping track.
Oh,
sorry.
No clock.
I thought maybe you didn't hit record or something.
Honey, do you ever watch our podcasts?
No, why would I watch them?
That just sits there 0000. It's on every podcast.
Why would I watch it?
Sorry, guys. My wife got distracted. So it's been really important, that just get back to that you actually come back together on it.
How would you do that?
Let me finish this, because what he taught me, this pastor, was that if people were calling him freaking out and it wasn't a life and death situation, he'd always meet him like 3 days later.
Absolutely.
Because 2 or 3 days later, it calms way down. You actually have some perspective and you're not as upset, because we react instead of respond to things as humans. And we respond out of our emotions instead of out of the fruit of the Spirit, which we've talked about a lot. And so in a marriage, I think it's really healthy if you can go, okay, kids are here, whatever's happening, let's come back to this. It's Tuesday. We're going to come back to this on Friday after the kids go to bed.
At this time.
I think we're going to lay the kids down or wherever the situation is. And then come back to it. It will be calmer. You will be able to actually talk through it and hear one another's perspective better, hopefully. Right? Now, you can say things that'll trigger stuff and go right back into fighting if you want, or you can get some tools here and learn how to have this conversation.
That's so good, babe.
Yeah.
I think that also that goes back to women needing security. I think when men hear women want security, they might think that means Mercedes, or what security means to a woman is, yes, I have a place to live, right? And yes, I can buy food for the children. Absolutely, that is security, and that you're going to carry that. But security is actually, you're in this with me. Like when my playlist to you, well, I like to listen to while I'm sitting by the pool or whatever, it's a lot of, I'll never leave you, I'm not going anywhere, that's security to me. So if we get in a big ass fight on Saturday and we haven't scheduled a time to deal with it and we're both real hot about it, I feel insecure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so do I.
You do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I didn't know you ever felt insecure.
Well, absolutely. If we have something hanging over us and you know it and you feel it,
okay,
and you're pissed or you're just sad, and now these days, well, you still get pretty mad. These days,
I'm fiery as hell.
You just get sad, and you feel like, and you have abandonment issues.
I do have abandonment
You
issues.
do, right? Well, your husband died and your son died.
He bailed on me, yeah.
People have left you. We've had leaders leave us.
Rejected me and betrayed me,
so I see it. And honestly, I was coaching a guy yesterday, and I said this to him, and it just, all the green lights went on for him, because his wife deals with abandonment. So anytime she feels like he's abandoning her, she loses it.
Yes.
And
he's like, what is this big reaction from?
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, it's a spirit of abandonment. It's not just normal. It's a demon, right? And for years, it's not demonic anymore, but you have abandonment issues, so you get sad, you feel like I'm going to leave and never come back, that kind of thing.
Well, I start planning how I'm going to make it in my 70s on my own, and,
right.
How long can I get, how many miles can I get out of the truck before I'll have to go buy another car by myself?
Right.
Super intimidating. Like, that's really where a woman's mind can go in an immature, unhealthy place.
Yes.
And I think, how scary are a woman's emotions to a man? Could that be one of the reasons?
Scary as hell.
Why?
Because first of all, normally it's totally irrational. and everything's connected.
Yeah.
So we don't know half the time where the hell the information's coming from, except that it's usually correct. We just forgot about it from 10 years ago, right? And so, and again, it's all connected, and we literally can't track with that because our brains don't work that way.
Right.
So it's intimidating. It's crazy. We know we're going to get angry because we don't know how else to shut it down. And so that's what creates even a bigger fight.
Okay.
So I love this idea of this tool, and this challenge to you ladies is learn how to compartmentalize. Learn how to rise above your emotions. Your emotions do not control you. You rule your emotions.
This is key.
Or the scripture is a lie.
This is key.
Learn that the fruits of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22, are something you become, not something you feel. I am peace. I am joy. So in the midst of a big argument or a fight that's happening, you have to make that decision. And am I going to be ruled by my emotions, or am I going to choose a fruit of the Spirit here and become peace? That surpasses all understanding. It doesn't make any sense that I should have peace here and that I should calm down, but I'm going to make that decision as a mature adult, not as a little child trying to get their way and screaming and fighting and pouting and holding their breath. Right? That's the difference, I think, in our marriage now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that, to me, is the only way you could actually successfully do compartmentalization in a marriage.
In a healthy way, yeah. I think that we always have to have a little bit of it. I know that, like, if you're traveling in another country and you are, I try, like, when you're traveling and you're, like, in Cambodia or something, and I'm aware of, like, the spiritual thing that's happening there. I'm aware that you probably have jet lag. I'm aware that you probably have preached all day and met with people. I know you probably haven't slept very well. I know all those things about you. So I am not going to share with you anything that's happening in our home that you can't do anything about.
That's good.
While you're on that trip.
I really missed that, by the way.
I know you loved it. And I also tried not to meet you at the airport with the list of issues.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like,
or the front door.
Yeah. I did try to, like, it is important, I think, to, this is something we all need to work on as humans, is putting ourselves in other people's shoes and trying to see the world from their perspective. And it's not that all these crazy people out here who are just totally ruled by their emotions and just hold everyone hostage, walking on eggshells with their ups and downs and their trauma and their triggers. And it's all about them. I mean, that's what is scaring me the most about what's happening on the earth right now, is we are coming so inner focused.
Right.
And our quest to get emotionally healthy, we're becoming freaking basket cases.
Well, I mean, and Paul says it in Romans, don't be self-centered. Don't just focus on you.
But every Christian program right now, too,
it's all self-help.
Me. You made me feel this way. You.
Well, and part of that, and we've talked about it, we made salvation an individual thing instead of an us thing, a corporate thing. I accept Jesus into my heart for us as the body of Christ.
Right. Because
I am a sent one. I'm not waiting to get to heaven one day. I'm a son on the planet right now on this earth to bring heaven to earth. And I did a video on this today. We've got to get heaven's view instead of earth's view.
Absolutely.
What's happening in Israel? Jesus became Israel. Now, of course, we stand for Israel.
Of course.
But the point isn't that we're all going back there one day. That's completely...
Well, how are you even going to get flights? I'm serious.
Well,
I mean,
true.
I've had this conversation with some older people in your life that we got to get to Jerusalem. Well, what about the single moms that are just trying? I'm
in
like,
the inner city. Yeah,
you really think that they're all going to be able to hop a ride
pathetic.
over to Jerusalem? It's that literal?
So this challenge
is to ask yourself. It's more asking questions and challenging yourself to the greater good of the family and the greater good of the marriage. Is me freezing my spouse out because of the hurt? What is that going to bring into our house? And is that actually even going to get anyone what they want? I think that's a really key thing. Is I think we have to know what we're looking for and what will bring us peace. So, you know, when you have a couple that one spouse has had an affair, whether it's one time or it's been an emotional thing or whatever.
Or they're looking at porn all the time. Or
well,
whatever.
And they both decided, no, I want to stay in this marriage and I want our family to succeed. And counselors or anyone will always tell them, well, you have to rebuild trust. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, how do you rebuild trust?
Right.
And it is daily, small, big, huge, minuscule, unnoticed showing up, doing, being honest, speaking the truth in love, serving your spouse above yourself, and doing that over time. I wasn't the one who broke you, but I paid the price
for the brokenness.
Sure. And so 10, 15 years into our marriage, I was still daily proving to you, I'm trustworthy. I tell the truth. I'm not sleeping with anyone else. I'm not even flirting with any, because you'd been wounded so deeply in those areas. You didn't know me for the first couple of years we were married.
Yeah,
we were becoming one.
Adultery is a big thing.
And it's a huge, huge
Yeah.
thing. Like, that destroys a person's soul. That takes away all your trust. It's the ultimate betrayal. And I had to build trust. I didn't break the trust.
Right.
I didn't do one thing for you not to trust me, but I still had to rebuild it because someone else broke it.
Yeah.
And I had to do that by bringing you your second cup of coffee as soon as I saw, that you were ready for your second cup of coffee. I had to do that by always picking up my phone. I had to do that with answering questions that didn't make sense to me because that was something you went through before. It wasn't anything that I had broken, but I still had to fix it.
See, that's
I think we
so
both
good.
do
I think you got to hear that, guys. Is you quit blaming your mom or your dad or this or that, and start taking responsibility for your own life and take responsibility for your spouse's life. It wasn't you that broke it. Maybe it was a dad that broke it. Maybe it was an uncle that broke it.
That's so
the first marriage that broke it. I still, because I said yes to this covenant, have to be a part of helping you heal.
Yes.
And humbling myself in that. Not blaming you and saying, God, if you just get over yourself and forgive your dad, we'd be fine. I've got to change my language.
But do get over yourself and forgive your dad.
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
Right. Do that.
Right?
I mean,
Apart
what
from
is
me,
it?
I never knew you. That's just unforgiveness.
It's unforgiveness.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we get to forgiveness and we get to health. It takes time. It takes tools. And I love this. So let's finish this up. We're doing this challenge, ladies. Compartmentalize. When you get in a big fight, instead of fighting in front of the kids, like for Emily to say that to us the other day, that hits my heart. Because our kids knew, our kids felt it. Sometimes we think they don't. They do.
If you're not yelling and screaming and slamming doors, and the police aren't showing up, but you're not speaking, not touching, not
silence.
Silence
Creates shame.
For our kids, all our kids needed to know was your eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever Dad's eyebrows are is the tone of the home.
If you were watching on video on our Patreon, you'd see my eyebrows right now.
So that really is this, and I'm not talking about, you guys know this, it's not about putting up with abuse. It's not about slapping a Band-Aid on it. It's about having a mature relationship and saying, okay, this hurts. Yeah. I'm pissed. You're pissed. But look at this week. Yeah. Especially when you have lots of small children, it's really hard just to go in your bedroom and close the door and think that a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old is not going to climb up on anywhere and do something. You're not going to be able to have a conversation. Yep. And to actually plan it and say, we're going to have to deal with this, but let's put a pin in it until then. But also don't emotionally be terrorists.
Block each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get back to intimacy with one another. Get back to health for your children's sake. And then make sure you actually meet when you say you're going to meet. Do it well.
Yeah.
As mature, freaking grow some balls men and show up and deal with stuff. Stop avoiding it. Stop anesthetizing it. Stop putting your wife down. You've got to actually show up and deal with your shit, because it is shit. And the way we treat women, we've been taught from the all the generations, it's just not healthy and good, right? So we become healthy men by confronting ourselves first, and then actually following through and sitting down and having the hard conversation, which is really hard.
It's very hard, but isn't it interesting that Scripture is all about a husband laying his life down for his wife? That's the truth of what Scripture is.
Well, it's Jesus in the church.
That's Jesus in the church. Yeah. But you guys are taught from the time you're small, sometimes from your dads, other men, whatever, that you're supposed to take from women,
right,
and not give
That's
to
all
them.
I knew.
That's all you knew.
That's all I knew.
And you were told that by
everyone.
Christian men.
Yeah, 100%. Women are beneath us. They're
and we were
submit
created
to
to
us.
serve you.
Yeah.
And so isn't it interesting that the church has actually perpetuated the opposite of what Scripture
That's called religion,
said.
babe.
And you still got some yo-yos out there preaching that stuff.
100%.
God
and
bless
yes,
them.
women are to submit to men. You know why? To show us who Jesus is. And yes, men are supposed to submit to women. Men are supposed to sit down, lay their lives down for their wives, just like Jesus did for the church.
That's
a whole other level. Okay, we're going to end this with a question.
Okay.
Our first year of marriage, 23 years ago.
Whoa.
In the second month.
Whoa.
What was our biggest fight?
Everything.
Okay, but give me something specific that we fought about that.
The chaos in the second month or second year or second month was all about the boys and their schedule, and
so we fought about that.
We fought about that. We fought about money. We fought about all of our money was going to counselors and lawyers. And
see, now if you would have asked me that question, I would have said I have no idea.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
You don't remember December 2000?
I don't.
Dude, I can tell you exactly what I was wearing.
I made my point.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks. Hey, part 2's coming with the different levels or different types of intimacy.
Yes.
And how we implement those
tools, baby. Tools
in our marriage. All right. Thanks, guys. Good job, baby. We'll talk soon.